Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to build a rock-solid foundation for understanding exactly how we talk about tomorrow by breaking down the architecture of the future tense. If you think about it, language is a whole lot like engineering. We use really specific building blocks to construct meaning. And when it comes to talking about the future, well, English actually gives us some incredibly precise tools. So we're going to roll up our sleeves and look at the exact grammatical blueprints that let us organize our plans, our promises, and our predictions. All right, here is our blueprint for today. We're covering 1, the simple future, 2, the future continuous, 3, the future perfect, 4, the future perfect continuous, and finally, 5, mastering tomorrow. Let's get into it. So how exactly do we architect our future? To truly master English grammar, you've kind of got to look at it like constructing a building. We don't just throw words together randomly and cross our fingers that they stick, right? How do we differentiate between something we just intend to do, something we'll be actively right in the middle of doing, and something that will be 100% finished by a set deadline? Well, it all comes down to the architecture. Let's kick things off with Section 1, the simple future, which is our base layer. The crucial takeaway here is that this base layer is exactly what you use when you want to establish a fundamental truth about what's coming next. It's the most straightforward, no-nonsense way to talk about future plans, intentions, or even just spontaneous decisions. You use this when you're making a simple prediction, like, it will rain tomorrow, or when you're making a promise to a friend, like, I'll help you. It's direct, it's crystal clear, and it forms the absolute bedrock of our future tense architecture. Just look at how beautifully simple the mathematical logic is here. To build an affirmative statement, you literally just take your subject, add will or shall, and plug in your V1, which is just your base verb. They will go to school. Simple as that. Make it negative by just squeezing in a knot. And to ask a question, you simply flip the architecture. Bring will to the very front to ask, will they go to school? Now, in grammar, just like in actual construction, we rely on specific markers to orient ourselves. Whenever you see these time indicators acting as signposts on our blueprints, you know for sure you're dealing with the simple future. Words like tomorrow, next week, soon, or later. These are really broad, general pointers toward a time that hasn't happened yet. They aren't giving us a highly specific minute on the clock, they're just pointing us forward. But check out this subtle yet incredibly important shift. On the one hand, we have a basic plan. I will call you later. That's our simple future. But look at the other side. I will be working at 8 a.m. See that? We've shifted from a static intention into an action that is actively in progress at a highly specific point on the clock. And that brings us perfectly to Section 2, the future continuous, or in-progress action. This tense is all about visualizing an action that is already underway when that future clock strikes. You aren't just starting the action right at that second. You are right in the thick of it. It describes an ongoing event. It's also the exact grammatical structure you want to grab when two things might be happening simultaneously in the future. You're setting a dynamic scene here, rather than just making a flat prediction. This is where our base really starts to grow. Notice how we swap out our standard verb for be plus a V4 verb, your ing verb. This transforms that simple base layer into an ongoing statement. I will be studying. The negative simply adds not again, and for questions, will jumps right back to the front. The addition of be and that ing verb, that's literally the mortar making the action continuous. To spot this second level of our architecture out in the wild, you really need to look for highly specific anchor times. Unlike the simple future, which just throws out a general tomorrow, the future continuous thrives on precision. Indicators like at this time tomorrow or precisely at 8 a.m. These specific anchors are telling you that if you dropped in at that exact moment, an action would be actively happening all around you. So far, we've built a simple plan and we've built an action actively in progress. But what happens to our grammatical blueprint when we need to emphasize that something will be completely finished before a certain point? What if completion is the absolute most important part of the sentence? That leads us to Section 3, the future perfect, where we deal with strict deadlines. This is the tense you pull out of your toolbox when you want to establish a strict completion point. Think of it like this. You are essentially time-traveling into the future, planting a flag in the ground, and looking backward to say, by this point, the job is done. It locks in a future accomplishment. It totally strips away the ongoing nature of the continuous tense and replaces it with absolute finality. Watch how the architecture evolves again right here. We've introduced a brand new building block, have, followed by a V3 verb, your past participle. This gives us the sturdy structure to confidently state she will have completed her work. To make it negative, you build it as she will not have completed. And our interrogative follows the exact same logical flip we've been using. That past tense verb is your definitive signal of absolute completion. Because this tense is all about deadlines, the definitive markers for this completed future state almost always involve words that set a strict boundary. Keep your eyes peeled for the word by. By tomorrow, by next week, or the word before. Honestly, whenever you see these boundary-setting words on the blueprint, your brain should immediately start constructing a future perfect sentence. Now here is where our grammar gets really sophisticated. We have an ongoing action, and we have a strict deadline. What if we want to mash them together? We have one final, highly complex layer to add to our building. This layer lets us measure exactly how long an ongoing action has been happening by the time we hit a future deadline. Welcome to Section 4. The future perfect continuous, where our focus is all about duration. This is literally the penthouse of our grammatical structure. This tense beautifully marries the ongoing vibe of the continuous tense with the strict deadline-driven nature of the perfect tense. The focus here is entirely on the length of time and activity spans, leading right up to that specific future moment. It paints a vivid picture of sustained effort over time, right up to a firm boundary. This is the ultimate longest formula in our explainer today. Just look at how many blocks we have stacked together. For an affirmative sentence, we stack our subject, plus will, plus have, plus been, and finally our V4 ing verb, plus the object and the duration. He will have been working on the project for 5 hours. Negative, he will not have been working on the project. And look at the awesome complexity we can achieve with a question. How long will he have been working on the project? Yes, it requires a lot of grammatical mortar, but it conveys an incredibly precise, detailed idea. Because the passage of time and the overall duration of the event is the absolute star of the show here, the indicators are almost always going to include measuring words. You'll see for alongside an amount of time, like for 5 hours, or since a starting point, coupled with a deadline phrase, like by the time. When you see these specific indicators, you know it's time to trigger this complex, multi-word grammatical structure. All right, bringing it all home with Section 5, Mastering Tomorrow and Building the Future. Let's look at this progression step by step. You can really clearly see how systematically we construct meaning in English. You start with step 1, the foundation, just adding will for a simple future intention. Step 2, we layer on continuity by adding be plus an ing verb. Step 3, we introduce a firm deadline and completion by throwing in have plus a past participle. And finally, step 4, we achieve maximum complexity by layering on duration with have been and an ing verb. It's just a completely logical step-by-step assembly process. We've officially deconstructed the blueprint. Mastering the architecture of the future tense gives us the exact, precise tools we need to organize our plans, make our promises, and set our predictions in stone. The grammar is your framework. The only question left is,